Grace and peace to everybody. So tonight we're doing part 2 of demonic activity in the Olympics, and we have the illustrious Andrea Solis, who God has graced with the ability to do research and to be able to deep dives. This is her lane, and so tonight I'm going to yield the floor, and we're going to be talking about. Actually, she's going to be talking about, I'm playing producer tonight, and she's going to be talking about the Olympics and what she's discovered, what God is revealing regarding all of the demonic activity, all of the rituals, all the symbolism that is in these games. From the very beginning, it's more prominent now because the age is becoming more evil. But I'm going to yield to our sister after I pray. Father God, we ask everything that you want exposed, that it will be exposed tonight. Everything that you want us to glean, that we will be able to glean. And Father, we just want to thank you for who you are in this moment of revelation. And we thank you, God, that you've blessed your daughter with the ability to rightfully divide all kinds of things, including the word. And we honor you, God, and we bless you in the mighty name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. And no further ado, I give you our sister, Andrea Solis.
Hola, everybody. This is going to be the part 2 to the Olympic video that I did before on the opening ceremony. So this time I'm going to talk, it's going to be kind of brief because this time I'm just talking about one small part of the closing ceremony. But while I was doing this, of course, I got messages from the Lord for things to reveal. So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. This is going to be really interesting. It's not just about the Olympics, but I'm just going to be revealing darkness, my favorite thing to do. So, all right, we're going to start with the closing ceremony. So when this happened, this was on August 11th.
Pause for
And
a second.
okay,
Those of you who are in Clubhouse, if you want to be able to see the slides and interact in that way, you can just come over to Deliverance Chronicles TV, and everything is on the screen.
okay.
Like
My
Nisi can
slides
see.
aren't moving. They're not
Let me
changed.
let me
Okay.
see. Are they moving now?
No, I need slide 2. Oh no.
Okay. There you go.
There we go. Perfect. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so when this came on, there was a performance, and the performance is actually about 27 minutes, but it was edited. So if you want to watch it on YouTube now, you have to go through like NBC Sports, and it's only 7 minutes. So I was able to watch the full version before it expired on my DVR. It only lasted for one extra day. So luckily, I was able to get some screenshots. So this part right here, this is just showing the stage setup, and we have all the 7 continents right here. So this is before any of the performance. And I know there's a lot of videos already about the closing ceremony. I would say I pretty much agree with most of them. I just have like a little bit extra for you guys. So, okay, so here's the stage setup. And then when it starts, sorry, my slides aren't working.
What slide are you wanting to go to?
3.
Okay. Hey, come on. Here we go.
Perfect. Okay. So most of the people that are Christians that do commentary and made videos about the closing ceremony, it seems like pretty much everyone's discernment just went off that something was going on. And overall, the majority of people believe that this little gold character that's ascending down from the sky, they are referring to them as Lucifer. So I got a little bit more info from that, but if you want to say it's Lucifer, I'm totally cool with that. So this little character, I'm going to go to the next slide. There we go. This is what it looks like up close. So a lot of people that were just watching the Olympics refer to him as like some type of bug, a mosquito man, a demon, all different terms. So of course, for the Olympics video part 1, I was supposed to go through everything as what the Olympics says it actually is. So I'm going to do that again. So according to the Olympics, this was supposed to represent the Golden Voyager. And the Golden Voyager it was like a project that NASA did in 1977. And they took a record and they recorded different like greetings and songs from all over the world in all different languages. And that little image where it has like the little like sketching on it, that went with it. And it went onto a small spaceship, and they sent it out. And the purpose of it was for an alien species to, if they ever find it, they can use that little sketch to figure out how to get to Earth. And they were supposed to use the record player with it. So there was pictures, there's sounds and things like that, so that they could get an idea of what humans were like. And it was supposed to be like this peaceful thing. So that's what they said it was based off of. The second thing they said that his costume was based off of, I'm sorry, I'm trying to go to the next slide. There's a statue, there it is. They refer to it as the Spirit of Freedom. This is in Paris, and it's a long column, like a statue, and on the top is the Spirit of Freedom. So this is for the 1830, there was like a 1830 revolution, and that particular statue, if you look at it, it has a 6-point star on his forehead. It has a torch and it has a chain similar to how the Statue of Liberty has the chain on her foot. And I know a lot of people say that the Statue of Liberty actually looks like a particular statue of Lucifer that has the chain and the torch and her crown and everything. So this is like pretty similar. So far, we're still like, okay. All right, so the premise of sorry, I'm trying to go to the next slide. The premise of the performance was, imagine a dystopian world with no Olympics, and this Golden Voyager comes down, and he basically comes to this like deserted Earth, and he wants to reincarnate the Olympics from ancient times. So he gets to the planet, he comes down, there's nothing here. And then part of that stage, it's gonna like start making this like little pixie dust looking stuff moving around, but it's supposed to be in the water. So it's actually like the marine kingdom is waking up, basically. So this figure, it's just abandoned. It does this little dancing and it does the pixie dust thing. So after that, if you remember in the first opening ceremony, there's 2 characters that return. It's the torchbearer. So this is the one, sorry, can you go to my next slide, please? This is the guy that is supposed to represent Arno from Assassin's Creed. And we saw him in the first video. And then when I went into the video game, it had all that stuff that connected back to all that Dimension 6 stuff from the Nike video. So it was like, it had nights, it had alternate dimensions, and it had Athena, it had Nike, and all these things were like connected. So the second character that returns is what the Olympics said was the Olympic spirit. And she's the one that rode the horse at the end. And when I went through the video, she was actually the foreshadowing from the book of Revelation for the white horse rider. And then she gets off and she takes the flag for the Olympics up to that statue that everyone was calling the golden calf, but it was the bull and the deer. So she's back and the torchbearer is back. They come after she does the thing to start the activity in the water. So this time, instead of the Olympic flag, the Olympic spirit has the flag of Greece. So when she brings it out, they announce, they do it in French, but they say, please stand for the Greek anthem. So, okay, can you go to the next slide, please? So once they do that, the Golden Voyager is going to plant the flag. There's like a little post. He's going to plant the flag. And then the stage is like going to start lighting up and come into life. And then where all the fans are in the stands, it starts moving. And it's like the ancient art from the old Olympic, like the vases and the different things. And it's moving. So it's like they're bringing those ancient games, they're bringing them back to life now. If you look at that circle right there, that looks like a portal. There's only one at the moment that you can see. So he's going to plant this flag. And then after this, over to the side of where Europe is, from where it would be the ocean, is going to emerge. I'm going to the next slide. Is going to emerge a giant Nike statue. So when I saw this, I'm like, I can't with this spirit. I'm so over Nike, you guys. Like, Oh my gosh. So when this happens, majority of like TikTok and YouTube and all the videos, they're like, what is this? Why is there a fallen angel at the Olympic ceremony? Why is there a decapitated angel? They all feel like off about this. Most people didn't know that it was supposed to represent Nike until like after the fact. But of course, I knew exactly what it was as soon as I saw it. So if you compare it to the opening ceremony, we have the same exact thing. So you have the torchbearer, and he's like admiring her. And then you have the Golden Voyager admiring her. And so, all right, in case anyone hasn't seen the Nike video, I'm going to take this opportunity to expose Nike one more time. So Nike, all the Greek goddesses, gods and goddesses are basically Satan and the fallen angels. The stories are about like his version, kind of like fictionalized of what happened when there was the war in heaven with God, when he was cast out. And it's the stories of the demigods are the Nephilim, and all of those different stories, how they impregnate the humans. And just there's so much inside of those stories that if you like look at them with the right lens, you can get a lot of information of what Satan and the angels were doing to humanity at that time. So Zeus is like one of his altars that he pretended to be to deceive people into worshiping him. So Nike, she is the Greek goddess of victory, but she's actually a demonic spirit. She presides over the Olympic Games from ancient times and now. She is a demonic spirit that shows up in deliverance sessions. She's connected to the Marine Kingdom through her Greek mythology family tree very heavily. She's connected to the Nike company. And I'm not trying to like be a hater because I was a sneakerhead. And from 94 until 2024, I collected a massive amount of sneakers and Jordans, and I'm over it. So she uses the Nike company. She affected Phil Knight. She's behind the name of the company, the logo. The logo is the wing. That's what's on your shoes and your clothes is that same. I'm trying to go back to her picture, but my slides aren't working. But that wing on there, that's what's on the shoe. She said it in a deliverance session that's what that represents. So Phil Knight, I'm sure he didn't do it intentionally in the beginning, but he knows what's up. Some of those shoes have curses on them. They can affect athletes. They can cause them to cheat, to do steroids. And she's the demon associated with CTE, which usually happens in the NFL that causes brain damage. She can cause mental illnesses, poverty and shoe addiction, violence, bullying, idolatry of athletes. There's so much. I have a whole 3-hour video on Deliverance Chronicles, all about Nike if you have not seen it already. So also, just before I did this today, so probably like 2 hours ago, when I did my Nike video, I got messages from the Lord constantly to keep going back to the football player, Aaron Hernandez. Aaron Hernandez was deeply affected by the Nike spirit. And just 2 hours ago, I saw a trailer for a 10-part series. So I think everyone should watch this. I feel like God is using this to expose how evil this demon is. It starts September 17th on FX, and it's a 10-part series. It's called American Sports Story, Aaron Hernandez. So the trailer is there now. If you watch the trailer, just the very beginning, as soon as it starts, it's the guy that is playing Aaron, and he says, "You don't know what kind of thoughts I have. It's like a demon." Then it shows him in a church, and he says, "What if God made me this way?" So I don't know what all is going to happen I feel like obviously Nike is not the only demonic spirit that Aaron dealt with, but she was the big one, and she is behind CTE. And Aaron Hernandez had the worst CTE for a person that was 27 years old that they have ever seen in the medical field. She's behind that drive that you think you have to keep playing when you're hurt and you have a concussion and you got to keep getting back out there and you got to keep doing it over and over. That's her. She does that. So I just wanted to point out that show's coming. It's probably going to be really good. So, okay, the next part. So you have Nike. She comes from the water. Of course, she comes from the water. She's over to the side. Now, this is the part that is edited on the like replays that you can watch on YouTube, and it's been shortened. So the whole thing is like 27 minutes. The edited version is 7 minutes. They took out all of the middle part with these dancers. I guess you can say they're dancers. This is the part that everyone was saying is a demonic ritual. But the way that they describe it, when you watch the Olympic ceremony on NBC, this was supposed to be an excavation team. And they went all across the continents. It's super dark like this. They're on all fours. They're going all around the world, just like climbing around. And at each one of the continents, because Nike has risen from the ocean, the planet, the continents, they like have sheets that are like lifting like mountains, and they're like coming to life. And each continent has an Olympic ring on it, which looks like a portal. It looks just like that portal that we saw when they had the Greece flag. So these people, they come from the sky as some run out on the stage. Their outfits, I couldn't get a close-up picture of it because they edited so much of the video, but they have like gold around their eyes, and everything else is all white. Some of them have like kind of like built-in muscles. Now, the commentator on the video, when it was live, they said the inspiration of the costumes was the ancient statues of the athletes from the Olympics. They don't look like that. They look demonic to me, but that's what they said they were supposed to be. So they go all over the world. They're looking for these rings. They get the rings out of the ground and they lift them up, and then they start rolling them. I'm going to go to the next slide. They start rolling them all around the world so they can come together. So during this part, they're going to get ready to lift the rings up into the air, because they're trying to put the 5 rings back together as if it's a rebirth of the Olympic Games. I'm going to the next slide. So once they start moving the rings around, there's like a little interlude. So when this part came on, I immediately got my Shazam. Like, no, what are we singing? They start singing a song. So the song is called Le Hymne de Apollon, or whatever. So there's like a piano. It did actually look cool, but there was a piano that's like suspended up in the air. And then I'm going to go to the next slide. There's a guy singing by he's like in the portal in one of the Olympic rings. He's singing. So I Shazam this song, and then I translated it to English. So I have all the lyrics. We're going to go over the lyrics later because we're going to talk about Apollo. I'm going to go to the next slide. And then, so they sing the song, and then they continue their whole like ritual that they're doing with these rings. And you see like some of them, sometimes they would have people inside the rings, how you can see that little person like at the bottom. And then eventually they're going to get all of them standing up. I'm going to go to the next slide. And then, okay, this is basically the end. All right, so that's supposed to be the Golden Voyager. All the rings have been lifted up into the sky. And they make this mountain of people. And stands on top of them, how you see, and they make like a tower, like, and they all get down really low, like they're worshiping him, right? So after this part, I'm going to go to the next slide. After this, the Golden Voyager, he's going to point up to the sky, to the rings. And this looks like a portal, another one, but everything's going to light up. And there's, of course, like, there's fireworks going on and all of that. So it's like this whole grand finale scene. So when I saw this, I wasn't sure who the Gold Voyager was meant to represent. I didn't know if it was supposed to be Lucifer or not. But I text Dr. Richards, like, they just did something demonic at the Olympics and they had a giant Nike statue and whatever. So he was like, do a part 2. So I prayed about it and I was like, God, can you please tell me how to figure out who is the gold thing in the ceremony and what does it mean? So that night I got a message and it was just a name that I was supposed to research. So the name was Anticus. So I'm like, okay, that's like, who is that? Okay, so I'm going to go to the next slide. And that name is going to relate to this. Now, the closing ceremony took place on August 11th. So when I was looking up the name, I found out about this holiday on the Jewish calendar. It doesn't go, it's not like the Gregorian calendar like we use. So it's a day called Tisha B'Av, and that date is August 12th in the evening until the 13th in the evening. And they call it the ninth of Av on the calendar. That is a day of Jewish mourning. It's the day of mourning if you are Jewish. So that particular day, it has a lot of things connected to it. And that's how I found this name. So I felt like this particular part that we're going to go over, this is connecting to that tower they made out of themselves, and they put the Golden Voyager on top. So we are going to say he's, in that case, that he is Satan. So on this day, this is a picture of the destruction of the first Jewish temple in Jerusalem. So the dates for this, they made it in 957 BC, and this was the temple of King Solomon. So this is all biblical. So this is King Solomon's temple, and then after the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar came, he destroyed the temple, and that was the first time that it was destroyed. Now, when that happened, so this particular holiday is the 9th of Av on their calendar. That destruction happened the 7th day of Av through the 10th day of Av. So that specific date falls in the middle of that mourning holiday because the temple was destroyed the first time. So then, of course, when this happens, I'm not going to get like super detailed, but when this happens, this is when Judah is exiled to Babylon, and that's that whole part. So then we're going to go to, can we go to the next slide, please? Then the next one, the date for this is also the 9th of Av. So it's the exact same time frame. But this time, this is the second temple of Jerusalem. And this one, they built this version in 516 BC, and it stood until 70 AD. So the Persian king Cyrus, he gave the order, he authorized the return. It was called the Return to Zion for the Jews in Judah. And when they went back, they rebuilt the temple. And then the Roman Empire took over. And this is the name. So this is the name that I was supposed to look for. And that is Antiochus. He was the emperor that ordered the destruction of the second temple. So we're still going through this whole series. It's like there's a lot more tragedies that happens on that specific date on the Jewish calendar, but since I'm just doing the temples, we're just going to do the first two because those are the first two things. So for this one, when they rebuilt it, they started to refer to it as Herod's temple because he had renovated it before it was destroyed. So the next part, so this right here, Antiochus, I'm going to the next slide. When he was in charge, he ordered a Zeus altar to be erected inside the second temple. And of course, Zeus is actually Satan. So Satan had a statue in the second temple of God. So then if you look at the pictures, now these are like recreations of other altars and like the big Zeus altar. And you see in his hand is Nike. So that means that Nike was most likely, she was in the temple too, them two together. So this particular scene, there is, it's like a false doctrine called the preterist doctrine, or they also call it the AD 70 doctrine. And they believe that this right here, the Zeus in the second temple, is the abomination of desolation that is referred to in Daniel 9. So they say Jesus is not coming again in Revelation. All the stuff that Daniel was talking about in Revelation, it's already happened. They already had an abomination of desolation and he's not coming again. So, of course, that's not true. Jesus is coming. So, all right, I'm going to go to the next slide. So, after the destruction of the second temple, there was a Jewish, what is this war called? I didn't write the name of it. There was another war, and Jerusalem was taken over by, I believe they were from Saudi Arabia. And then where the temple used to be, the first and second temple, where that used to be, they built the temple, it's the Temple Mount, and they built the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and that's what's there now. And then over to the side, that's called the Western Wall. So the Western Wall, so you got the Temple Mount like in the middle, and it's like a whole area around it. Now over to the side, there's still a wall remaining from when Herod's temple was there. So it's not like it's touching the building, like it's over, it's off to the side. But in Israel, that's where a lot of the Jewish people go to pray, because they say it's like the holiest part, and there's like a lot of restrictions of who's allowed to go to the actual Temple Mount, because you can only be Muslim if you're going to go inside, even though that they say that's like the holiest part, that they consider the Western Wall and the Temple Mount the holiest place in Judaism. In Islam, they consider the Temple Mount the third holiest place. And they feel that there's great significance to it because that's the place where Muhammad went on a night journey, where and they say that he ascended into heaven on one night, and he came supernaturally to visit the place There was no temple there. This was after the destruction, but he visited the place where it was to be built. And then from there, he ascended into heaven and he was able to be in the presence of God. So this part here, okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, now in Jerusalem, I'm going to try to explain this as safely as I can. So I'm just going to say, in Israel, everyone that says that they practice, that they're like a practicing Jew, may or may not actually practice by the Torah. So there's other books, there's like different denominations, just like in Christianity, that everyone doesn't agree on everything. And there's some people in Israel that I know in the United States, we don't get the full picture of Israel's current history. And you're not going to get it unless you go out and research it yourself. And I'm not talking about just like this war that's happening right now. I'm talking about like, at least for the past, I would say at least 50 years and up, you have to really look into what is going on over there, because it's not how it's portrayed. There's a lot more to this story than what you see in the United States. So if you think of like Israel as like God's chosen land and like chosen people and things like that, if that's what God has always said, of course the devil is going to try to mess with it too. So there's like, I mean, Jesus said it himself in Revelation. He said there's the synagogue of Satan, those that say they are Jews and are not. So I'm trying to say there's a certain group and they have a plan already to build a third temple. So this is a model of what the third temple is going to look like. They already are making the stones for it. They have it all planned out. There's a lot of websites and organizations. They do fundraising and they do a lot of things so that as soon as they get the opportunity to get the Temple Mount out of the way, they have everything ready to go so they can start building their third temple. Now, over to the side is there's 5 red heifers in Israel right now. So the heifers relate back to the time with Moses. And they believe that the only way that they can like purify that land where the Temple Mount is that they have to do the same type of sacrifice that Moses did with a blemish-free, completely perfect red heifer. So because we're talking about foreshadowing and the book of Revelation and end times and all those things, they have never had these cows. They have not existed. There was not a perfect one. There's been a few times in the past where they thought they maybe had one that they could use in the future. Like, I think maybe like 1997, they had one. Like 2002, they thought they had one and it didn't work out. But I think within the last year, they have 5 of them. These animals have not existed, okay? But they're there now. Those are from Texas. They've been like breeding in Texas, well, not just Texas, in the United States. They've been attempting, like the Zionists and the Zionist Christians have been trying to get these animals, and they got 5 of them to pick from, and they sent them over to Israel. So those are there now. So they're getting ready. They're doing everything they can. So as soon as they can start building, they're going to. So the thing is, with this third temple, this is not for Christians. This is for who the Jewish people believe is going to be the Messiah, that they're waiting for their Messiah, and it is not Jesus. But according to the Bible, this third temple is just prophecy, because who's going to end up ruling from this place is the Antichrist. So this is just like to let you know, keep your eyes open of what's going on with the Temple Mount and the building of the third temple. And then I have like a whole bunch of scripture that goes with it. But basically, if you're a Christian and you believe in Jesus Christ, we are a temple. We don't need a third temple for Jesus, because we have the Holy Spirit residing with us every single day. When he in John 2:19, he said, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." So they're like, "Oh, well, it took like 46 years to make the temple," but then they knew after he had passed and he rose, they knew what he meant by it. So, okay, for this temple, there's a couple different institutes and organizations that are heavily involved in the fundraising and putting everything together. Now, on one of their websites, this one is from thirdtemple.org. So if you listen to what they are describing the purpose is of this temple, it totally sounds like the Antichrist. So this is from one of their frequently asked questions. And it says, once the temple is built, what will become of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam? So it's like a kind of long answer, but the main parts, it says, after the construction of the third temple, the recognition of a single God for all human beings will be attained. It will still be possible to pray in mosques or synagogues, along with places which do not represent idolatry. Religions will gradually disappear, and places of worship will continue to exist alongside the temple. Prayer books for all nations will be published to bring each human closer to their neighbor, the earth, and God. Each people will rediscover its mission on earth, and the people of Israel will be in service of the nations to convey the divine message. So even though they don't realize, they totally just explained a one world religion where everyone worships under the Antichrist. So, okay, we can go to the next slide. Okay, Apollo. So we're going to talk about Apollo because when I went over what they do for the torch ceremony, for the torch relay, it begins with the invocation to Apollo. And then they take a mirror and they use the sun, the rays from the sun, and they use that to light the torch. And Apollo is the god of the sun and the god of light. So we had him there. And then in the Olympic anthem, they were also singing to Apollo. And then when we just saw the closing ceremony, there was another part where they sang the hymn to Apollo. So first, I'm just going to tell you some of the lyrics to the song, since we had went over that part. So the man that was singing, he was singing it in French, but this is like an actual hymn from like ancient times they found the lyrics and then they just still sing it. And Apollo, at his main temple, which is in Delphi, Greece, he had his own version of the Olympic Games. And at his version, when they had their like different contests, They had a hymn of Apollo singing contest where everyone had to sing this song and you could win. So this song is like, it's very like traditional. So some of the lyrics of this song, it starts, oh muses. We're going to talk about the muses too. Oh muses of Helicon with deep woods, daughters of Zeus resounding. Come by your ancients to charm the god Phoebus. Phoebus is another name they use for Apollo. Your brother with golden hair. The muses are Apollo's half sisters because their dad is Zeus and Apollo's dad is Zeus. So they sing a lot about the water, the streams at Delphi where his temple is. So it says, sparkling master from the mountain to the prophetic lair. On the altar shines the flame, who of the young bulls consumed the flesh. O son of great Zeus, on top of these snowy mountains, you who spread on all mortals, infallible, eternal oracles, O muses form a choir around the prophet God. So Apollo has a lot of titles, but in Greek mythology, so Zeus is the king of the gods, and he's the highest. Apollo is directly under him. So they're like the top two. And then I think everybody else, I would say like the 12 Olympiads are maybe like the next row as far as like rankings. But Apollo is extremely important. And he is the god of, I want to tell you he has a lot of titles. He's the god of the sun, the god of light, the god of oracles, of healing, of archery, of music, of art, of knowledge, and of plagues. So he was a healing god, but he would also give sickness. And he would have people get plagues and things like that. So, okay. This is Apollo because he is the god of prophecy. His temple, his main temple, is at a place called Delphi, Greece. We can go to the next slide. Okay, that's where his temple is. And if you look at the picture, there's the woman, and she like is holding that bowl. So there's all these like fumes that are coming up. This is actually, there's like different types of gas that the earth is releasing at this specific place. And Apollo and his temple is totally associated in ancient times with being a place of receiving prophecy from the oracle of Delphi. So what he did was he transformed into a dolphin, and there was like a group of pirates out in the ocean. He controlled their ship so it would get lost at sea. And then he appeared as the dolphin, and he had them follow him to Delphi. And that's where his temple was going to be located. He basically kidnapped them. They didn't want to stay. He revealed that he was Apollo, and they were meant to be the priests because he was going to have this temple, and people from all over were going to come, and he needed people to work at it. They ended up getting homesick. They wanted to leave. They wanted to go home to their families and their wives. And Apollo got angry. He called them ungrateful mortals. And he basically said, if you guys want to leave, in other words, if you guys want to leave, that would be stupid because people are going to bring me so much stuff here that you'll never need anything. So Apollo is where we get the concept of paying for prophetic messages and like fortune telling and like all those things. So millions of people came to Delphi to get a visit with the oracle. And the priests that worked there, they would sell. I don't know if they always had money. I feel like this was like before they even had money to use. So they would bring like different offerings and like animals and like stuff like that. But they would set a price for these honey cakes. And you would have to buy a cake to burn it for an offering. And that would give you your place, um, allow your place in line so that you could meet with the oracle. Now, the oracle, she only did actual prophecy 9 times a year because it had to line up with like certain constellations and all these things had to happen. And she would go into this tiny room and from the ground, these gases would come up like you can see in that picture. She would inhale them and she would become high. But during this, Apollo supposedly was able to take over her. So when she's given prophecies, they're supposed to be coming from Apollo himself because he's the god of prophecy. So eventually, um, it starts to become less popular. And they say there was most likely an earthquake that caused a shift in those how the gases were released. So I don't even think that they have like the same gases in that area any longer, but there's like a earthquake fault there. Um, so all of that comes from Apollo. So okay, Apollo's dad is Zeus. And if you look, we can go to the next slide, that's fine. Okay, Apollo's dad is Zeus. Zeus was married to Hera, so she's the mother of the gods. She's the one that, if you remember in the opening ceremony video, when we went over Dionysus and how Hera tried to kill the baby's moms, and she's always trying to kill the kids because she's jealous that Zeus was cheating on her. This happened again with Apollo's mom. So Apollo's mom was a woman. Her name was Leto. Hera found out that she was pregnant. She sent a giant, sometimes they say it's like a giant snake. Sometimes they say it was like a giant, like a she dragon that was basically chasing her all over the place because she was pregnant. She forbade her from having her children. She was pregnant by Zeus with twins. So the twins are Apollo and his sister. Her name is Artemis, and she's the goddess of the hunt. So when she was pregnant, she basically forbade the earth, the mother earth, to allow her to have these babies on anything that is touching the planet. So on this map, there's a little island. It's called Delos. Delos was a floating island. It wasn't attached technically to the earth. And that island allowed for her to give birth there. Now, when she gave birth, she had Apollo first. And Hera had also, they had a goddess of childbirth. And that goddess, she would come when people had children to relieve the child, like the childbearing pain and the extent, the amount of time that you were having your child. She told the goddess of childbirth that you're not allowed to go near Leto, period. So it took her 9 days from the birth of Apollo to have Artemis. When Apollo was 9 days old, they say that he was already the god, he was already like a skilled archer. And he used he had like this special gift from another god that had made him some bow and arrows. And he killed that python. They call it the python, or if it was a dragon. Apollo killed that because it was trying to hurt his mother. So then Apollo becomes this like big hero. So whenever they have these games, like the Olympics for Apollo, they call I think they're called like the Pythian games, there would be this whole reenactment of Apollo killing the creature and saving his mother, and then in turn saving um, Delphi, and that's where his temple and everything was. So when I was doing all this research about, these are all those dots are different places in Greece that are connected to Apollo. And then I'm going to go to this next one. I didn't get to fully research this, but if you go to the next slide, so this is called the Apollo axis. Now this line here is called the Apollo and Saint Michael line. And it is a perfect line. Down in the bottom corner, that is the beginning of the line. And that is Jerusalem, like where Israel is. It's hard to see it on this map, but it goes straight to Mount Carmel. And on that line is also the valley where Armageddon is going to occur. And then you just connect these lines, just straight lines. So it goes all through all Apollo stuff. And then if you keep going, it goes all the way up. So that's like past France. All of the stuff up at the top are different things named after the archangel Michael. And some of the stuff is built on top of old Apollo sites. And it's like different stuff. Like some of it is just like landmarks that are named after him. Some of it's like churches. I don't know. So I thought that was interesting. So you have this whole straight line. So they call it the St. Michael line because it's supposed to be a sword that goes to Armageddon, basically through Apollo. We can go to the next slide. Okay. So also for when I was doing the closing ceremony, and I wanted info about Apollo because of this song, I went to Revelation. There's a picture coming up later that I'm going to show you, but I had went to Revelation because Apollyon, which is Apollo, is mentioned in the Bible. So before I get to that part, I just wanted to show this particular part here because we don't like, because we're so far in the future, we don't like realize how involved these Greek gods and goddesses were when Jesus came for the book of Revelation. So this map right here, all those red dots, most of them in the middle, those are the 7 churches in Revelation that Jesus had. He appears to John. So the year for this is most likely between 95 and 96 AD. So he appears to John. You can see Patmos is in the that little island right there. So he goes to John. So where you see these 7 churches, these are the different temples that were active at the time. And some of these are duplicates. So just because like it shows in one place, like there might be a temple for Dionysus in Philadelphia and somewhere else. But the main temples that were active when Jesus showed up to John are Zeus. So that's going to be the great altar of Zeus, the one that Jesus refers to as the throne of Satan. So that's going to be Revelation 2. So we have Zeus, Athena, Demeter, Dionysus, Apollo, Artemis, and Nike. And then the picture right there, that's the Emperor Domitian. He was the emperor that sentenced John to the exile on Patmos. So he was the one behind that, but he also was worshipped. like emperor worship, he had his own different temples distributed around the 7 churches as well. And he believed that he was Apollo on earth. So he was the physical form of the reincarnation of the god Apollo. Then we can go to the next slide. So when I was doing this and I looked up, I'm going to read a little bit of Revelation 9. So when I was looking at it and I looked up Apollyon and him having these connection to these locusts, I was like, what does a locust look like? And look what I found. Those look like the Golden Voyager. It has like the little antennas, like, okay, so when we do Revelation 9, this is going to be, I'm not going to read like too much of it, because it's actually like a whole section that describes this. But we're at the part of Revelation where we're going through the 7 trumpets. So we're at trumpet 5 for this particular part. And we're also going to talk about the CERN collider that's coming up right after this. So I'm going to read 9 verse 1, just so that we can like think about CERN. So it says, and the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And if you look for the alternate word for bottomless pit, it says shaft of the abyss. Okay, so we have this description of this abyss right here. So it's going to describe like the smoke coming out of the pit, and then there's these locusts, and these are not your average locusts. These are like they're described very vividly, and they have the hair of women, and their faces were the faces of men, and they had the teeth of lions, and their wings were like the sound of chariots, and they were given the authority to torment people that did not have the seal of God for 5 months. So then when you get to verse 9:11, it says, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. And if you look in the middle, the alternate for Apollyon is the destroyer. So this is definitely talking about Apollo. This is who was being worshipped at the time instead of Jesus at these temples. This is what was actively happening when he shows up. And we can go to the next slide. Okay, so this part here, I didn't know about the CERN collider. I'm not the best at science, but I'm going to try my best to explain what this place is and what they're doing. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure all of this stuff out. Now, the reason why I even went to CERN is because when I was researching all of these things and I came to the locust, I saw a clip of someone saying that CERN was built on top of a temple of Apollo. So that made me completely research into CERN. So I know this is kind of like conspiracy theory territory, but I got a lot of info. So I'm just going to share everything that I have. So, all right, CERN, the letters for it, the CERN, if you were to do it like in English, it would basically mean the Center of European Nuclear Research, but their letters, it goes CERN. So this is in Switzerland, in Geneva, Switzerland, and it's on the border of France. And outside, they have this statue right here of Shiva. So Shiva is the Hindu god of destruction. So first, I'm just going to tell you about this statue. So if you look at the bottom of the statue, there's an inscription there. So I'm like, why is this there? Like, seriously, why is this there? So the place where this came from, in India, the Department of Atomic Energy of India sent them this statue as a gift because they had a lot of professors from India that had went to work at CERN. And CERN is not the like oldest building. Like this is like kind of new. So they send them this as a gift. And they sent it because, now this is a quote, because it's paralleling the movements or the dance of subatomic particles. So on the inscription at the bottom, on that like little sign, it says, "O omnipresent." Omnipresent is capital O. So, "O omnipresent, the embodiment of all virtues, the creator of this cosmic universe, the king of dancers, who dances the Anata Tandava in the twilight, I salute thee." So that dance, what that Anata Tandava means is the dance that Shiva does because he is the god of destruction, the god of time, the lord of the yogis, the cosmic dancer. He's the master of poison and medicine, and he's the supreme being. So when he does this dance, that is the source of creation, preservation, and dissolution. So really, it looks like he's coming out of a portal, actually, is what it looks like. But they have this outside. So when I went through what CERN actually is, we can go to the next slide. Okay, their biggest experiment is called the Large Hadron Collider. That the blue tunnel that you see right there, that is a whole underground tunnel. It's 17 miles long, and it's like a big round circle that's underground. Now, what they're doing here is they're doing like different experiments because they were trying to recreate the environment for what they say is the Big Bang theory, the Big Bang, which is the creation of the planet. So what they do is they take subatomic particles. So these are very, very small. And they send them in opposite directions around that giant 17-mile circle. So they send them in different directions and they crash into each other. Now they're doing this at like the speed of light. It's extremely fast. And they're doing it over and over, like millions of times, just over and over and over and over. When they crash into each other, they are giving off different types of particles. And they're taking that and they're trying to basically understand, how did God create the world? They're trying to figure out how God made the world is what they're trying to do. So they do this over and over and over. And there's like a flaw in the Big Bang theory that some scientists say that if the Big Bang theory if there was actually a Big Bang that created the whole universe and the existence of our planet and everything else, that it actually would have immediately failed. But for some reason, we're still here. So they don't understand why. The reason why is because God. Like when I'm doing this research, it's just showing to me how brilliant God actually is. Like just to create all of this. This stuff is just, this is so advanced. Like these scientists, they're like actually geniuses, but they are never going to be able to figure this out because you can't. Like, no, this is God. So when I was looking for the purpose of these experiments, I found this on CERN's website. All my source information for a lot of this stuff is their actual website. So you can't say this is conspiracy and I made this up. This is from their page. Now this says a top scientist at the LHC says that the Titanic machine may possibly create or discover previously unimagined scientific phenomenon or unknown unknowns. For instance, an extra dimension. This is on their page. This is their page. Now, this is a quote from, this is Sergio Bertolucci. He's a director of research for scientific computing at CERN. Now, this is his quote. He said, "Out of this door might come something, or we might send something through it." And then later in the same interview, he says, he confirmed that yes, indeed, there would be an open door, but that even with the power of the LHC at his disposal, he would only be able to hold it open for a very tiny lapse of time, maybe 10 to 26 seconds. But during that small amount of time, we would be able to peer into this open door, either by getting something out of it or sending something into it. Of course, after this tiny moment, the door would again shut, bringing us back to our normal 4-dimension world. And of course, there would be no risk to the stability of our world. So there's a lot of physicists and scientists that say what they're doing at CERN is they are actually trying to open portals. And they say that these collisions that they're doing, they're also doing different. I'm going to tell you guys some of the experiments in a minute, but there's also experiments where they're dealing with antimatter, which is the opposite of like good matter. They, when in contact with each other, they annihilate each other. They have, there's all these different experiments that they're doing. Now, this is when people will say you're being a conspiracy theorist, but to me, what the scientist was saying is that they're looking for alternate dimensions and portals. So for the term a wormhole, a lot of like scientists and stuff, they say like they're trying to make a wormhole. So if you think of a wormhole, think of it like, all right, if this is space and time, right? So let's say like this is Earth right here, and this is Mars. And you fold it in half, and you stick this through the middle like this. All right, like this. This is a wormhole. So where my pen is, I basically just made 2 black holes that are portals that you're taking a shortcut from Earth to Mars. You're just going right through the middle. So that's what they're saying that they're attempting to create. So when he says he can open something open for 10 to 26 seconds, they most likely are trying to keep it open longer so something can come through. So this is all like scary type of stuff. We can go to the next slide. Okay, I can't prove this, but this is part of the like conspiracy. They say that CERN is named after this god, and his name is Cernunnos. He is so he's considered like a Celtic god or a Gaul, Roman god. So this is going to be like in Europe, like the European countries like France, where CERN is, Switzerland, and then like I want to say like Norway, countries like that. So this is their god of nature. He is he's connected to a couple things. All right, he's the god of nature and animals. He's similar to Pan in Greek mythology. So Pan is the god that he looks like a human, but his legs are like a goat. And he has like the small antlers. So his closest connection is that. And then his animals that he's always with are deer, bull, and serpents. And they say that he has a connection to the underworld. Now they're saying that at CERN they're trying to open the gates to hell. I couldn't find anything that told me anything about anything specific being there that relates to the gates of hell. There's all kinds of places around the world where people say, like in ancient times, they believed, like in Greece, they have a place where they say that it's the gates of hell. So I couldn't find that, but they say that this God is connected to that. And we can go to the next slide. So, hold on. Did I miss one? I think I missed one. So there, when I was looking up this temple, if CERN was built on top of a temple to Apollo, there's a town. It's called like St. Jenny's Poly. And it was actually two towns, two very, very small towns that combined together. And they say the Poly comes from a word like Apollicum. And that was during when the Romans had control of Switzerland, that Apollicum means belonging to Apollo. And that's where the temple was. And then they just changed the name of the town. I couldn't find anything to verify that there was a temple of Apollo under CERN or on top of CERN. I couldn't find it. I looked for hours to try to find it because I'm like, if this comes out true, then come on, like it's so obvious what they're doing. I couldn't find it. What I did find was that Geneva, when the Romans did have control of it, they had control over that area for hundreds of years. Geneva was a Roman settlement, and they had like Roman capital cities, and then Roman settlements. Geneva was a settlement. So if this is a Roman settlement, they have to have something, some kind of temple to one of the Greek gods there somewhere over all those years. And then on the CERN website, they had like a little story that they had when they were building. They were digging and they uncovered an ancient like Roman villa, and they had an excavation team come to get some artifacts out of it, and then they said they reburied it. They reburied it in case it needs to be excavated again. They described it as a farm and like a villa. So I don't know. It said when I was reading it, it was making it seem like the temple had also been reburied. So maybe, but I can't prove it. So I don't know. So then, okay, this is all from their website. These are the actual names of experiments that are done at CERN. So we're going to go through all these names. And these are all acronyms. And I'm just going to say, okay, so I'm a retiree from the Army. If you were in the military before, you know everything is an acronym. It's all initials. They're just random letters. And there's like a million of them. Like, there's so many I can't even think of them all. Like the ASVAB tests, ACUs, BDUs, MREs. There's so many. They just take the first letter from every word and they put it together. Sometimes it sounds like another word, and usually it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you just say the letters. So if you look at these, I capitalized the letters that they used to make the names. So let's look at Atlas. So Atlas is A, toroidal with a T, LHC, apparatus. They use the A at the end and the S to make this word. So I'm going through these experiments. So I'm just going to go through each one. I'm going to tell you the significance to relate it back to Apollo or like Greek mythology or whatever. We can go to the next slide. So for the first one is Atlas. And Atlas is a Greek god. So he doesn't have like direct connection to Apollo specifically, like in stories. But in in Greek mythology, Atlas was a Titan, and he was in the war. So it was the Olympiad gods. So that's going to be like Zeus and Athena and all of those. They fought against Kronos, who is Zeus's dad, and the Titans. So when they were fighting, at one point, all the Titans, oh, I don't know what happened to my Atlas picture. All the Titans were, I'm back at Atlas. I think it's number, let me see, number 33 should be Atlas. But he was fighting in the war, and Zeus, as punishment to the Titans that fought against him, he sent them to a part of the underworld called Tartarus. And that's the same place that in the Bible, when there's the word hell, it can have two different meanings in the concordance. And it does say that some of the angels that were cast out of heaven were sent to Tartarus. So this is kind of like the same exact story. But most of the Titans went there that fought against him. But Atlas was the strongest of all the Titans, and they considered him like their leader. So when he was punished, he didn't get to go with everyone else. They caused him, Zeus said that his punishment was going to be to hold up the sky. So when you see Atlas, there was the picture, but it's the guy, he always looks like he's holding up the earth. His punishment actually wasn't to hold the earth, but people always draw it as the earth. It's actually just supposed to represent the celestial sphere. So it's like a globe, and it's covered in like stars, like different stars and stuff like that. So later, Perseus is the one that killed Medusa, and he had her head. And there's a part in Atlas's story that Perseus uses Medusa's head on him. And when he does that, he turns into the Atlas Mountains. So the Atlas Mountains are a whole mountain range in northern Africa. So that's who Atlas is. So then the next one, so we would be on slide 34. Let me look at my pictures. Slide 34 is, okay, the next experiment is called Hades. Hades is the god of the underworld.
Check.
In I can hear you, in Greek mythology. So I had a picture. It was just a picture of hell, basically.
Check.
And
I can't hear her.
oh, you can't hear me? You can't hear me? Dr. Richards, can you hear me? Oh, you can hear me? Oh, okay. Well, the next slide was Hades. So I had some pictures for that. So then the next one, there's an experiment. So this would be, can you hear me? He still can't hear me. The next experiment, I skipped one. They had an experiment called Delphi, and that's where the Temple of Apollo is from. And then they had an experiment called Totem. A totem is like the animal that represents a particular god or goddess. So, for example, for Apollo, his totem would be a dolphin because he appeared as a dolphin when he basically kidnapped those pirates to work for him. So it's Atlas, Delphi, Totem, Hades, and then Alice. Oh, I wish y'all could see this slide. Alice is it would be number 37. For Alice, the first thing that popped in my head is the movie, the Disney movie. And look, she's going in a portal. She's going in a portal into a whole nother dimension. That middle picture is this alternate world where she goes to Wonderland. So the Disney movie, that came out in 1951. The movie, the Disney version of the movie is based off of books by Lewis Carroll. The original Alice is actually from 1865. And then there was a sequel called Through the Looking Glass that came out in 1890. So when I got to this part right here, I'm like, okay, they called it Alice. We got a portal. She's going to another dimension. Does this relate to Dimension 6? That name? I know if you haven't seen the Nike video, it might not make the most sense, or the last Olympic video. But, okay, Dimension 6 was the original name that Phil Knight wanted to name Nike. And I kept finding games and books and poems and movies and all this stuff. And the words, the key terms these same words kept coming up. So I'm like, let me look at this actual book. And when I looked up Through the Looking Glass, y'all, there was a red knight with a K. Again, the word knight. There was a red knight and a white knight. And the red knight tried to abduct Alice. So just like in those Dimension 6, the game and the poem, there's always like, in that movie, there's always like an abducted princess or something. There was a red knight that tried to abduct Alice, and then the white knight rescued Alice before anything could happen, and he saved her. That part doesn't appear in the cartoon, but I thought that was interesting because that word, that, like, it's in Assassin's Creed, it's in everything with these alternate dimensions. I don't get it. I don't know. But okay. So for the next slide, back to, it should go back to the names of experiments. So we're at Alice. So we did Hades already. Alice. So the next one after this, if you go through the slides, it's called an Aegis. So it's Aegis. And that word is the name of Athena. So Athena is the goddess of war. It's the name of her shield that she uses. So she uses it and she shares it with Zeus. It should be on the slide after this one. It has Medusa's head on it. So it's either the shield or it's the breastplate that she wears. And it's in like some of her statues. So they use that when they go into different battles. So that was the experiment. And then there's an experiment called Athena. This is all from their website. So I was looking at a different experiment. And when I clicked into it, I found that they had an experiment called Athena. Then they had Satan. Yes. They did a lot of work to make Satan. So they took a solar axion telescopic antenna and they used the A and the N from antenna to make Satan. But this title is on their website, but it's listed as a withdrawn experiment because they changed the name. So that they must have just been too bold with that one, and they changed it. I think the new name is like Cast or something like that. And then for the next slide, this is like the final experiment, and it is called Alpha. So when I got to this one, I was like, all right, because some of them are just letters, you know? So I'm like, does Alpha have a connection to Apollo? And basically, there is a theory that Apollo is, okay. So Apollo is Zeus's son, and he's like the second highest in their Greek mythology of gods. And then there's a theory that Apollo was later reincarnated as Jesus. Okay. So if you look at these letters, this is the Greek alphabet. So the A is alpha, and then omega is the last letter in the Greek alphabet. So they were saying that the reason why is because if you look at this picture right here, so in Greek, it usually has, they refer to him as Apollyon, and it'll have the N at the end. But for this, we're going to take off the N. So you're just going to have Apollo, right? His name starts with Alpha and it ends with Omega. But I love this. I already loved this verse, but I really love this verse now because we have Jesus. The very first red letters in Revelation, when he comes back and appears to John, and he says, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending, saith the Lord, which is and which was and which is to come, the Almighty. So no, Apollo, you're not the beginning or the end of anything. No. Um, so yeah, that was the last experiment for that. And then we can go to the next slide. So Apollo, his father is Zeus, but his half sisters are the Muses. Apollo was a god that was heavily involved in music. So his sisters, they considered Apollo the leader of the Muses. And I got a message to include this next part onto this video, just so that we can look at how the concept of muses, how is that relevant to the current time and our music and our entertainment and our movies, and how can how can demons have such an impact on something like a big presentation such as the opening ceremony of the Olympics or the closing ceremony? Because I know, like, most likely sometimes people do these things on purpose and they know what they're doing, but I do believe sometimes you don't know. So you may have wanted to be a dancer in the closing ceremony and you accepted this job and you're like, this is great, I'm going to be in the Olympics, and you end up wearing that costume and you do what they want you to do, and you were just in a whole demonic ritual and you had no idea. But like, how did the costume designer come up? Why does that look so much like a real locust? You know what I mean? Like, how does this stuff happen? So these are just pictures of the 9 muses with Apollo. We can go to the next slide. So there's 9 muses. They're all associated with different things. So I used to think that it was mainly like muses would be connected to music and like poetry, stuff like that. They actually have abilities to affect a lot more categories. So when we go back to that song that they were singing, the very beginning of the song, it says, "O muses of the Helicon with the deep woods." Any of the old books that are used to tell the stories of Greek mythology, they always start out with "O muses," because they are trying to invoke them to help them write. This is like the Odyssey. So that would be like the writer Homer, the one that wrote about the 5 ages, where we talked about Zeus. His stories start out, "Oh muses, daughters of Zeus, sing to me." And then they're getting this information through the muses, and that's how they're creating these stories and these poems and everything else. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, creation of the muses. Zeus in this story, so Zeus is always shape-shifting. He turns into animals, he turns into other people, and he just does the most so that he can deceive women to being with him. Most women, it seems like, they don't want to deal with Zeus because of Hera. Because if you mess with Hera, Hera is going to try to kill you. She's going to try to kill you, or she's going to try to kill the baby, and she's going to harass you, and it's just, it's a whole thing. So Zeus is often disguising himself as something else to get into these relationships with women, whether they're goddesses or if they're mortal people. So in this instance, this is, her name is Mnemosyne. She's the goddess of memory. She didn't want to deal with Zeus because of Hera. So he disguised himself as a mortal shepherd, and he was able to seduce her that way. They slept together for 9 nights. And because they were together for the 9 nights in a row, she gave birth to the 9 muses. And we can go to the next one. So some of the muses, there's 3 of them in particular. So I'm going to go over those 3 first. But there's 3 of them that in the like the old Greek literature, they refer to as the mother of the sirens. But at this time, the sirens weren't like mermaids. They had wings and they were more like birds. So that's like an ancient statue, that like an artifact that they found. And then that picture is from the Odyssey. So I think that's the story. The guy on the ship, he's tied to it because he wanted to try to listen to the sirens singing, because the sirens, they are out on the rocks in the water, and they sing these songs, and it attracts sailors to come to them, and then they cause shipwrecks, and then the people die. This particular guy, he wanted to listen to them sing without the shipwreck. So he had his crew on his boat, they all stuffed their ears so they couldn't hear the sirens. And only he was able to hear them singing. And in the story, I guess since the boat didn't crash and their singing didn't work, that they all died, because if you hear a siren singing, you're supposed to be attracted to it, and what they were doing, it didn't work. So 3 of them are considered mothers of sirens. We can go to the next one. So, all right. For each one of these, just think of this not as ancient times. Think of this as right now. And then you're going to get the whole game plan of how the demonic kingdom is taking, like, basically trying to hijack our gifts that we have from God so that they can use them to help their purpose instead of what we're supposed to really use our gifts for, which is to give glory to God. So the first one, there's 3 on this slide. The first one, there's only 1 book that referenced her as a mother of sirens. The second girl, she had 5 different books that referenced her, so she's definitely a mother of sirens. And the last one, she had 2 separate sources that listed her. So the first one, her name is Calliope. Her name means beautiful voice, and she's the muse of epic poetry, and she's the chief of all the muses. So epic poetry is going to be like long narrative poems. So when you think of Homer and the Odyssey, that would be considered like epic poetry. So that's what she deals with. The next one, her name is Melpomene. She's the muse of tragedy, and her name means celebrate with song. So she deals with anything that has to do with the feelings associated with human suffering, which would be grief, sorrow, and despair. She's most likely had an influence at the time. It would be on playwrights and poets. And then the third girl, her name is Terpsichore, and she is the muse of dancing and of choirs. So when you think of, so her name is delight in dancing is what her name means. But if you think of if you have a gift for dancing and a demonic influence is tapping into your gift, an example of how that's going to turn out is going to be over sexualized dancing, or you might be a stripper or something like that because you have a gift of dance, but there's something that's influencing your gift and they're tainting it. So these are the only ones that are connected to sirens. The other ones don't really have, they didn't really mention like kids and stuff like that. So we can go to the next one. So for the next slide, The first one is Cleo. Her name means to make famous. That's what her name actually means. She is the goddess, not goddess, she's the muse over history. So you don't really think about history as being something that you would need a muse for, but her job is to help immortalize figures and events. And back then, there wasn't as much like writing and things like that. So she would help you to remember different events that took place. But also, this is altered history. So just think of any history that you're like, you know, it's been changed. That's not what really happened. That's demonic influence right there. The next muse, her name is Euterpe. Her name means delightful. She's the muse of music and lyric poetry. So musicians used to invoke her to inspire, guide, and assist with musical composition. So that would be any songwriting or the instruments. And then the last one on this slide, her name is Erato. She's the muse of love poetry and erotic poetry. She normally affects poets, musicians, and visual artists, and she had the power to make people fall in love through poems and music. So that's also something that can still happen. And we can go to the next one. These are the final three muses. So the first one, her name is Polyhymnia. Her name means many hymns, and she's the muse of hymns. So her specialty is hymns, but it's also the practice of meditation. And she creates any songs and hymns that give praise to the Greek gods. And the next one is Urania. She's the muse of astronomy. This one's a good one. She's the muse of astronomy and astrology. She foretells the future by the stars. She inspires astronomers, scientists, and philosophers to study the heavens and the mysteries of the universe. So that's going to be the people that work at CERN. They're being encouraged to look for ways to disprove God. So she's tapping into, like, they're not creative like most muses, it seems like, art and music and stuff, but like these are just intelligent people, and they're still tapping in there and trying to distract them from their real gift. And then the final muse, her name is Thalia. She's the muse of comedy. She normally affects playwrights and poets, and her specialties are going to be human emotions that deal with joy and laughter. So when you take all 9 of them as a team, they're in everything around us, all the shows. I mean, comedians, actors, singers, dancers, choreographers, music producers, just everyone. So we have to make sure that we're taking care of our gift and that we're not sharing it. So also, it's not just like this concept of the muses, especially with music. Satan will show up too. Satan will show up if it's important and it's a song or something. He will influence some lyrics. And so my video, my first video for my channel is gonna be, I have a prophetic message for Ye, formerly Kanye West. These messages that I've been getting, they're so good. This video is going to be so good. But that instance with Satan showing up, I have the exact song. So when you guys see the video, you'll have to like go look at the song that I'm talking about so you can see what I'm talking about. And then the last thing is that when I did the video about Nike, this relates to this. So I wanted to add it because I skipped it on accident. But there's a part in the video when I talked about Ryan Garcia and Justin Bieber. And those are two celebrities. The Lord told me to look at their tattoos because they had a lot of tattoos that could be considered demonic, and they also had kind of equal amount of tattoos that could be considered Christian. He said that they had a heavy calling on their life, and the tattoos were a visual reflection of the spiritual battle that's happening inside of them when it is like good and evil. So when I talked about that part, this is a message that I received and I forgot it. So this is what the Lord said in addition to what I had already said about Ryan and Justin. So he said, my children have to learn to fight back.
Come on.
It's like leaving the doors and the windows open in your house.
Come on.
So what he was referring to when he was saying fight back was spiritual warfare and deliverance from demons. Then he said, for celebrities, it's the lifestyle. So these are the most common open doors that celebrities have, which is actually like most people, but their lifestyle is like on 10. So it's going to be sexual sin, drugs, marijuana, alcohol, unforgiveness, and self-idolatry. And that's how the demonic kingdom is influencing Ryan and Justin, is how he influenced Aaron Hernandez. And it's what's happening right now with Ye. And that's all. That's my whole presentation.
Wow. I know y'all are blown away. So guys, any questions, any comments, any commentary, anything you want to add? We're going to post some questions to the woman of God, chief researcher. And let's see if we can get some dialogue going on here. Also, if you want to bless the woman of God for her great research, let's go. Amen. I'm going to start first. I'm going to bless you first.
Thank you. Thanks.
Solis.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is it Solis 117?
Yes.
If you want to bless the woman of God, it is $Solis 117. Any questions?
You're welcome.
Don't you wish that people could talk on YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, glory to
The
God.
locust. Yes, I know, right? I didn't know I know what a locust is, but I didn't like expect it to be yellow like that.
All right, so her Cash App is on the screen. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let me be the first one. Now, this was awesome, man, and it what it shows us is that the agenda to contaminate, infiltrate, to find ways and open doors to get into us so we can be completely demonized in some way, form, or fashion is a real thing. They're trying everything, using every form, every medium to really try to get us to fall victim to what they're trying to do. And you did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
And I can't wait till you start your channel as well. So if you want to bless
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
here's her for
So as
clash.
far as like gifts and everything, so I have my like gift since I was like about 4 has always been like creative writing and reading.
Mm-hmm.
And from 2020,
Mm-hmm.
I started using marijuana every single day. And I used it all the way up until um, I was still using marijuana when I had got saved because I thought it was okay. I didn't know about demons. I didn't know if it was you could still do it or not. I had heard people say like it's in the Bible that you can, and that's false doctrine. That's not true. But for a while, I was still I had a medicinal marijuana card. I was using it for anxiety. I was using it for depression. I was using it for nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to have nightmares so much that I would be afraid to go to sleep. I
Wow.
would have sleep paralysis and all those different things. I didn't know what any of that meant though. So to me, marijuana was taking away my dreams. I didn't know that dreams are a way God can communicate with you. So that was all the way shut off. And then after a while, I got to the point where, so I was trying to write my book, it was fiction, and I also wrote poetry. I felt like I couldn't even write creatively unless I used weed first. And I'm
Wow.
like, this makes me so smart. I'm so creative. I just wrote 2 chapters like that. I had all these good ideas. And now that I am saved and I don't use marijuana anymore, and I look back at my old writing, I can see them in it. I know that they were messing with my gift. And I'm so glad. At the time, I was like trying to write this book off and on, and I had so many things against me that I'd never finished it and I never published it. But now I'm glad I didn't, because if I did, that would have been my big book that I wrote, and it would have been highly influenced by demonic influence. And a lot of it would have been written under the influence of marijuana.
Wow.
So they definitely got to me for sure.
Before we ask this question, so Amanda Jones says you mentioned and
Mhm.
read any revelation regarding black knights. I had a vision of a black knight on a black horse holding a red and white flag, trying to get me to follow them.
What?
Mm-hmm.
No. So the nights, all the nights so far that so I don't know if you saw the video about Nike, but when I was researching this title called Dimension 6, I kept finding the word knights. So the knights were in these board games that you could take a portal to the Temple of Athena. But those ones, they just look like silver, just like how you think of like a standard knight.
Mm-hmm.
And then in that, there was this movie about a Dimension 6 portal that went to Satan, and he had his own knights in there, but they just had weird costumes. They didn't have like a specific color. And then the other knights, they were in the game Assassin's Creed, and they had like I kind of want to say they a little bit look like how Arno was dressed, but they had like the like a cross symbol on them. Um, where else was there knights? In one of the
Are you referring
poems,
to the Knights Templar?
yeah, yeah. And then there was another group of knights, they were Christian knights, and I think those looked like standard knights too, like silver.
How did we meet?
So I have found you because I was researching the Travis Scott concert
Mm-hmm.
and the sacrifice. And I was just starting to learn about demons and rituals. And I saw this video, and this woman, she mentioned the Marine Kingdom had influence at the Travis Scott ritual. So I looked up, what is the Marine Kingdom? Like, I never heard of this before. And then your page was the first result. And then I saw your videos. And then I saw your wife, so I saw your short videos about the Marine Kingdom, and then I saw your wife's testimony for what it's like to get deliverance. And her video is what made me schedule an appointment with you. Yep.
Wow. Let me tell you, this has been a ride. I've never seen somebody go from zero, like I just got saved, I'm a babe,
Yeah.
doing post-grad type research. Like we go to school for this stuff. I'm like, this is a gift. This is a tremendous gift. And I want you to know that you are a tremendous asset to the body. And I'm super duper proud of you.
Thanks.
Be a homie. Right? So
Thank
write
you.
that book, Dr. Solis. I don't know if you saw that.
Okay.
Did you see that comment? Let me put it back up on the screen for you.
Oh,
Okay.
I wish.
Yeah, you did a great work. Great work. Any other questions before we go? Let me see. Shan is saying,
Hold on. Beyonce, Drunk in Love. Let me see.
you will make me look it up too. Oh my gosh, I'm tired.
It might be her, because all the in the original Olympics, all the like trophies and stuff, they didn't have trophies, but like the prizes would come from Nike. So it would be symbols that represent her. So like she had these leaves and like they had crowns that they would get, but it was all like connected to Nike. And because she's the goddess of victory, her symbol of her, like how you saw in Zeus's altar, that kind of looks like a trophy, how he's holding her because she's victory. So it might be.
I'm looking at the video too to see what she has in her hands. It's just such
Oh, wait. Okay. Hold on.
and she has this big trophy. I'm trying to see what's on the trophy. It goes out of focus. The waves are crashing against.
Who is that? I think that's a beauty queen, because she had that one song, Pretty Hurts, and then in that music video it's about when she was a kid and she was in beauty pageants. Her parents used to put her in beauty pageants, so I think that is one of her old, supposed to like represent one of her old trophies when she was a kid, because it had like a sash and the flowers.
Did you ever watch Wonder Woman 1984? Come on, y'all gonna make me go watch all these movies.
No, I didn't see that one. Do you think the athletes performing in the Olympics know or even understand the depths of what they're participating in? No. I don't think they have a clue. And that trophy, the medal, all the medals from every summer Olympics since the beginning of the modern Olympics has Nike on it. So
Jesus.
they're taking this medal and they're taking it home with them to wherever they're going to keep it. And Nike's right on the front. And yeah, they have no idea. It just seems like it's such a big honor and something great to do for your country. But at the same time, she's behind a lot of the downside of being an athlete at that elite level. So being obsessed with winning and feeling like you're never good enough, or like eating disorders, or when they like do microdosing and stuff like that, so it doesn't go detected that they're taking something for the Olympics, like all of that stuff, she's behind all of that. So there's probably a lot of the athletes that have her influencing them daily. and their work ethic and how they train, and they don't even realize.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. But again, it goes back to one of my original, not that I made this point before, but the enemy's always using deception to get us involved in their games. He's
Hmm.
in the open. Well, let me not say he's not coming out in the open, because surely there's a murder bus in front of the DNC's national convention right now. And so they're not even hiding their agenda to perform blood sacrifices to empower, and so we have to be mindful that there's so many of us are unchurched and don't know or even have the concept of God, that they can do these things in our face and we think it's analogous. But for those of us who are awake and know what's going on, it's just a clarion call for us to pray. We just need to start praying more. That's all.
I was glad we prayed yesterday against that. That was good.
Oh, we went crazy yesterday.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have said that. We went all HE double hockey sticks on the devil yesterday. And all of these deities, the Yoruba deities, the Hindu deities, and all this stuff. But it was an honor again tonight to do this, and then we're gonna wait for your next setup so we can do it again.
Oh, so my next one, it has to be for Yay. Can I like premiere it on here?
Sure. What you think?
Okay.
No?
Okay.
Of course. Let's go.
Okay, next video is gonna be about Yay, and it is deep, and I have a lot of info. But when you watch it, please, there's this song that I'm gonna mention. There's a couple versions of the song. Please listen to all the versions so you can get the full revelation of what God is revealing, because it's deep. It's so deep. Like, just for days, I just kept thinking about it. Like, wow, it's really good. I was like, when I got the revelation about Aaron Hernandez's brain, and the shape of Nike is the shape of how CTE eats your brain. I was affected by that particular revelation for days. This song that I'm going to talk about and what the Lord said about it, I'm still mind blown by it. I can't wait to share it with you guys, but I don't want to ruin it. So,
Shan says, why do you think Satan has so many versions of this original story? And I think simply is because from dispensation to dispensation, what he does is changes his appearance, but it's the same game, right?
It is.
And
it
so
is the same.
like we talked about, Shiva and all of these Hindu gods, they're the same water spirits. They're the same as the Titans. They're the same as the Yoruba spirits. Wherever they show up, they do the same thing under different names and under false pretenses. But it's all the same, and we just got to know that we have the victory. So Sparkle, what was your question? Let me go back and see if I can find Sparkle's question. Sparkle, you might have to ask it again. I didn't get that much sleep last night. I went to bed at like 4.
Sparkle, is it for Wonder Woman? I need to watch that movie.
Oh, in Wonder Woman, was half hybrid, half human, and half God, but fighting the evil God. It's the okie doke. It's the old twist of the plot, but it's still demonic because it ain't no half hybrid, half human demigods fighting against the devil, because they're on the same team. They may not like each other, but the agenda is the same thing: to destroy humanity and to get us caught up. They're not trying to go to hell by themselves.
So is Wonder Woman a specific god, like how Thor is like a known god, or is she just fictional? Like,
if you do the research, because we think that these people are creative and they're coming up with these stories, but all they're doing is memorializing demons. We got to figure out who Wonder Woman is. She's probably Aphrodite.
Yeah, she could be anybody,
right? Because Aphrodite is the goddess of war.
love.
And Mrs. Something else, right? So
Artemis is she's a hunter,
she's
the
a
goddess
hunter.
of hunting. Yeah. So Athena, she's the goddess of war. She could be based off of Athena, maybe.
I think if we start looking at those movies from the first one until I don't know how many they are, I think we'll be able to find the answer.
Oh, I forgot to say, like for CERN,
Mm-hmm.
that is Avengers Part 1. Now I don't know DC Comics, but I'm an expert at Marvel. I've watched a lot of Marvel in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But Avengers Part 1, so that's like 2012. And that one, Loki, so Loki's like the villain in that movie. He uses the Tesseract, which is this like foreign like alien energy source.
Mm-hmm.
He uses mind control on a physicist
Mm-hmm.
at an advanced research center. And then he uses that scientist to open a portal. And then through that portal, later on in the movie, these like alien figures come down, and it's like they're kind of like robotic centipede flying things that come down.
Mm-hmm.
And then Iron Man has to go up there and he has to close it's a wormhole. That same thing that we talked about with the paper and the pen, and he had to go shut it so he could save everyone. But all those same concepts were right there.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
Any other comments? Any other statements? Any other questions? I think we're done. So listen, if you want to bless the woman of God, it's $ Solis 117, and I really appreciate what you did tonight.
Thank you.
This was awesome. And I can't wait for the next one.
Okay, up next is Yay.
Check. Amen. So folks, tomorrow is Wednesday. Tomorrow we're going to be focusing on Buddhism. Don't miss it. Bring your Bible and your oil. And we going in. Amen. So